The cold void of space stretched endlessly, silent and dark, lit only by distant stars and the faint glow of Imperial patrol ships. On the far edge of the Empire's territory, the border was usually quiet. The crews of the patrol fleets expected nothing more than smugglers or the rare pirate vessel slipping across the line. But this night was different. Something vast had appeared on their scanners, something that did not belong. The first officer on watch stared at the readings, his hand trembling slightly as the numbers shifted across the screen. "Captain, there is a ship," he whispered. "Unknown design, massive, coming through Sector 9. The captain leaned forward. He had served the Empire for decades, and in all his years he had never seen a signature like this. The object was too large for a standard battleship, too fast for a cargo hauler, and its energy readings pulsed like nothing in their databases. He gave the order to open long-range visuals. On the screen, the crew saw it, a single warship, black as night, moving silently through the void. Its surface seemed to absorb the starlight, its shape sharp and terrifying. No Imperial markings, no identification codes, only silence. The bridge fell quiet. No one spoke. The ship did not broadcast a signal. It did not answer hails. It only drifted forward, steady and calm, as if it did not fear the patrols at all. "Is it one of ours?" a young ensign asked, his voice breaking. The captain shook his head. "No, it is not Imperial." The silence grew heavier. Everyone in the room knew what that meant. The scans confirmed the truth a few moments later. The warship was human. For a second, no one believed it. A single human warship so deep inside Imperial territory? Impossible. The humans lived far from the Empire, across regions of space considered unreachable by normal fleets. No human vessel should be here. And yet here it was, cutting through the border without fear. The captain tried again, his voice firm, though his heart raced. "Unidentified warship, this is Imperial Border Patrol. State your purpose and origin. You are in restricted space." There was no answer. The dark ship kept moving, slow and steady. "Maybe they cannot hear us," an officer muttered. But his words were hollow. They all felt it. This silence was not the silence of broken machines or distance. It was the silence of a predator. The captain ordered 3 ships forward to block the intruder's path. Engines burned bright as the patrol cruisers moved into position, forming a wall of steel and firepower. The warship drifted closer, not slowing, not turning, as if the blockade did not exist. A chill spread across the patrol bridge. Officers exchanged uneasy glances. The Empire's fleets were vast, powerful, built to conquer and control. But something about this lone ship filled even veteran soldiers with dread. Reports began to spread quickly. Other patrols picked up the signal. Word raced across encrypted channels. "A human warship has crossed the border." Commanders whispered it to one another like a curse. Admirals demanded confirmation. The Empire's military had faced humans before, long ago, on distant battlefields. The stories from those wars were still told in hushed tones. Entire fleets crushed by human ingenuity and reckless courage. Humans, though small in number, had been the one species the Empire had never truly broken. And now, after years of silence, a single human warship had returned. The captain of the border fleet swallowed hard. He ordered his gunners to charge weapons, though he did not give the command to fire. Deep down, he knew it would make no difference. The readings on the scanners were clear. This vessel carried power far beyond what they understood. Its weapon systems were awake but calm, almost like a predator baring its fangs without moving. Still, the Empire's pride demanded resistance. To let this intruder pass without challenge would be unthinkable. "Fire a warning shot," the captain said. His voice was low, controlled, but every officer heard the fear beneath it. One of the patrol cruisers obeyed, sending a bright spear of energy across the dark void. The beam cut through space, a line of light meant to push the intruder back. The human warship did not react. It did not move. It did not even acknowledge the attack. The beam struck its surface, and the light vanished as if swallowed by the dark hull. Not a scratch, not a mark, nothing. The bridge of the Imperial ship fell silent again. Hearts pounded. No one dared to breathe. Then, for the first time, the warship made a sound. A single tone echoed across every frequency, low and steady like a heartbeat. It was not words. It was not music. It was only a signal. But to the men and women on those Imperial ships, it felt like a warning. The captain leaned back in his chair, his face pale. "Inform High Command," he whispered. Tell them. The humans are here. Across the Empire's border, alarms began to sound. Fleets stirred from their docks. Admirals shouted orders. Panic moved faster than any ship. And through it all, the lone human warship kept moving, steady, silent, unstoppable. Rising fear. Across the Empire. The first report reached Imperial High Command within the hour. At first, many dismissed it as an error. A human warship inside Imperial space? Impossible. The humans had no known fleet in this sector. Some admirals even laughed, claiming the Border Patrol had mistaken a pirate ship for something larger. But as more transmissions poured in from multiple fleets, the laughter died. The description was the same from every ship. A single black warship larger than a dreadnought, unstoppable and human. In the grand chamber of the Imperial Fleet Council, the admirals gathered. Holographic maps lit up with flashing red as the warship's progress was tracked. Every officer spoke at once, their voices sharp with fear and anger. Some demanded immediate assault, others urged caution. The argument grew heated, for no one knew what this human vessel was capable of. Humans have been quiet for decades, one admiral said bitterly. Why would they send one ship into our heartland? This is a message, another slammed his fist against the table. Then let us answer it with fire. One ship cannot stand against the Empire's fleets. But his words carried less strength than he intended. The others remembered the old wars, the battles no one spoke of openly. Entire squadrons lost to human ships half their size. Victories won not by numbers, but by cunning and ruthless resolve. Outside the chamber, in the halls and barracks of the Empire, rumors spread faster than any official order. Soldiers whispered of the ghost ship that crossed the border unharmed. Some said it carried weapons able to destroy suns. Others swore it was crewed by no men at all, only machines with human minds. With every retelling, the story grew darker. In the deep reaches of the Empire, ordinary citizens too began to hear fragments. Traders spoke of an alien ship that swallowed light. Refugees whispered that it had already destroyed entire fleets. Even though none of it was proven, the fear was real. The Empire was a giant, but its people trembled at the shadow of one human warship. Meanwhile, the ship itself moved with terrifying calm. It did not rush, it did not hide. It entered system after system as if daring the Empire to act. Patrols fell back without firing, shaken by the sight of their comrades' failure. The closer it came to a key Imperial outpost, the more chaos erupted in command centers. At Outpost Varian, a cluster of defense stations bristled with guns. Thousands of soldiers stood ready, engines burning, weapons primed. And yet, when the warship emerged from hyperspace, a silence swept through the fleet. The commander of Varian Outpost was an old warrior, hardened by battles across 3 campaigns. He stared at the black vessel drifting slowly before his armada. His hands shook, though he tried to hide it. He had seen many enemies in his life, but never had he felt such weight in the air, as if the ship itself was crushing his will. "Do we engage?" his aide asked softly. The commander did not answer at once. He watched as the warship floated closer, its presence like a blade pressed against the throat of the entire fleet. At last he whispered, "Not yet." Orders rippled through the Empire. Reinforcements were called. Dozens of fleets moved toward Varian. But already panic was spreading in their ranks. Entire crews begged to be reassigned. Some ships delayed their jump on purpose, claiming mechanical issues. The myth of the human warship was growing larger than the ship itself. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor sat upon his throne, his face carved from stone. He listened as his advisors spoke of the intruder. They used cautious words, careful not to admit fear in front of their ruler, but he could see it in their eyes. At last, the Emperor rose, his voice echoing through the chamber. "If the humans think they can frighten us with a single ship, they will learn their mistake. We will meet them with the full strength of the Empire." His words were powerful, but even the Emperor could not stop the unease spreading through his court. For in their hearts they all wondered the same thing. Why had the humans sent only one? Was this ship truly alone, or was it the first shadow of something greater? Something far more terrifying waiting in the dark beyond. And as the black warship drifted past the outpost, engines glowing faintly like the eyes of a predator, the Empire felt a chill it had not known for centuries, a fear that no fleet, no emperor, no throne could silence. The humans had returned. First contact, the fleets gathered like storm clouds around the outpost. Hundreds of Imperial warships stood in formation, their weapons locked and ready, engines burning bright across the black sky. Never before had such power been assembled to confront a single ship. From a distance it looked like a wall of light and steel, endless ranks of cruisers and destroyers stretching across the stars. And yet, against all this strength, the lone human warship drifted forward without fear. Its hull was black, its shape sharp, and its silence more terrible than the roar of 1,000 guns. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship, Admiral Tavor sat rigid in his chair. His jaw was tight, his eyes unblinking. He had commanded fleets for decades and never lost a battle. But this enemy was unlike any he had faced. It moved with no escort, no support, only calm confidence. And it carried the name whispered with dread across every channel: human. "Admiral," a captain said nervously, "all fleets are in position. Awaiting your order." Tavor's hand hovered above the console. To fire first would mean open war. To hesitate might invite disaster. The Emperor himself had ordered the intruder destroyed. Yet Tavor's instincts screamed that rushing in would be suicide. He gave the order at last. "Hail the vessel again. Demand surrender." The command signal shot across the void. Every ship waited in silence, the message echoing through empty space. Seconds passed. Then a minute, then two. The warship did not answer. "Still nothing," the captain said. His voice cracked under the weight of fear. Tavor clenched his fist. "Increase power. Open all frequencies. They will hear us." This time the demand was louder, sharper, impossible to miss. And at last the human ship answered. The voice came across every channel at once. Calm, cold, male. It carried no accent, no trace of emotion. Yet it filled every Imperial bridge with the weight of final judgment. "This is not war," the voice said. "This is a warning." For a moment no one moved. Officers stared at one another, unsure if they had heard correctly. A warning? What kind of warning came from a warship that crossed into enemy space alone? The Admiral's voice shook with controlled anger. "Identify yourself. State your origin and purpose." But the warship did not answer. Only silence followed, heavy and suffocating. Then, without warning, one Imperial cruiser broke. Its captain, young and reckless, fired a full volley of plasma rounds. Streams of blazing light streaked across the void and smashed into the black warship. Every officer leaned forward, eyes wide, waiting to see damage. But there was none. The energy blasts struck the hull and vanished as if swallowed by the dark metal. Not a dent, not a scorch mark. The human ship did not even move. The bridge of the Imperial flagship fell silent, breathless, cold. Then, in less than a second, the warship answered. A single beam of light, thin and bright, shot from the vessel's side. It struck the attacking cruiser dead center. For an instant the ship glowed, wrapped in blinding fire. Then it was gone. Not destroyed in pieces, not broken into debris. Gone, erased from existence as though it had never been. The silence that followed was unbearable. 1,000 Imperial soldiers stared at the empty space where their ship had been. One cruiser wiped away with one strike. Admiral Tavor's voice was barely a whisper. Impossible. But the proof was before them. Panic rippled through the fleet. Crews shouted over channels, some demanding retreat, others begging for orders. Officers struggled to control their men, but the fear spread faster than commands. The legend of the humans was no longer a rumor. It was real. The human warship spoke again. Its voice was steady, calm, unshaken. "You are not prepared for what waits beyond your borders. Humanity does not seek your empire. But cross our line again and your fleets will vanish as this one did." The words hung in the air like a blade. They were not shouted. They were not emotional. And that made them even more terrifying. Tavor tried to rally his men. "Do not listen to their lies. They are one ship against hundreds. Stand firm." His voice thundered, but even he could hear the weakness in it. On every ship, soldiers whispered the same question. If one human ship could do this, what could an entire fleet do? The warship moved again, drifting closer to the Imperial wall, not firing, not rushing, only moving with steady, silent confidence. Every meter it gained felt like a hand tightening around the Empire's throat. Tavor slammed his fist on the console. "All ships, fire everything!" "Overwhelm it!" The sky lit up. Beams of plasma, missiles, and kinetic rounds streaked across the void in a storm of light. The firepower of hundreds of ships poured into one target. For a moment the stars disappeared under the blaze, and when the light cleared, The human warship still stood, not a scar, not a crack. Its black hull gleamed as before, silent and untouched. The crews fell into despair. Some wept openly at their stations. Some turned off their targeting systems, refusing to fight. The fleet that once ruled half the galaxy now trembled like children before a shadow. The warship's voice returned, echoing through the silence. This is your final chance. Leave, or face extinction. The words rolled across the stars like thunder. Every Imperial soldier heard them. Every heart quaked. Admiral Taver lowered his head. For the first time in his life, he had no answer. He who had commanded thousands, who had never tasted defeat, could only stare at the black warship and feel the truth. The Empire was powerless. The first contact had been made, and it had broken them. The Empire's breaking point, the fleet should have stood firm. They outnumbered the intruder 100 to 1. Imperial commanders had been trained since youth to fight without hesitation, to show loyalty to the throne above all else. And yet, in the deep silence that followed the destruction of the cruiser, no one moved. Thousands of officers sat frozen at their posts, staring at the black warship as though it were a living nightmare. The panic began quietly. A frigate on the far edge of the formation pulled back, its captain whispering orders to retreat. His crew obeyed without argument, engines flaring as the ship slipped away from the battlefield. Then another followed, and another. Soon, an entire squadron had turned from the front lines, pretending to reposition while secretly fleeing into the darkness. Admiral Taver shouted across the channels, demanding discipline, demanding obedience. "You will hold your ground. The Emperor commands it." His voice thundered across the comms, but it no longer carried the weight it once did. Fear had eaten through the fleet's pride, and pride was the only thing holding them together. The black warship did not fire again. It only drifted forward, silent, patient, unstoppable. That patience was worse than any attack. It was a predator circling its prey, showing it had no need to rush. Inside the Imperial ship's crews whispered among themselves. Some begged their captains not to fight. Others argued the humans had come with a purpose, that resisting them would only bring destruction. The discipline that had defined the Empire's fleets for centuries was unraveling faster than any enemy could have imagined. At Varian Outpost, the commander watched the chaos unfold. He had served the Empire for 40 years, his loyalty carved into him by blood and war. But as he stared at the black vessel, a thought crept into his mind, one he never would have spoken aloud in the past. If this is only one ship, how many more do they have? That single thought was enough to break him. He lowered his head and whispered, "We cannot win this." His aides exchanged looks of shock, but none dared to challenge him. They felt the same truth gnawing at their own hearts. Across the Empire, news of the battle spread faster than official orders. Soldiers carried the story back to their barracks. A single human warship had faced hundreds and survived untouched. Civilians repeated the tale in markets and taverns. By the time the sun rose over the Imperial capital, the warship had already become legend. Some called it the Ghost of Saul. Others named it the Black Judgment. Every retelling made it darker, stronger, more unstoppable. And with each telling, fear sank deeper into the Empire's bones. Admiral Taver fought to regain control. He ordered the fleets to regroup, to surround the warship, to strike with coordinated volleys. But even as he shouted, he knew it was hopeless. Ships refused to obey. Some powered down their weapons entirely, sending encrypted signals of surrender to the intruder. Others broke formation, scattering into the void like frightened animals. Finally, Taver gave the order himself. "All forces fall back to defensive positions. We will hold the outpost," but it was too late. His men no longer trusted him. They no longer trusted the Empire. The warship had shattered not only their formation, but their faith. The human vessel moved again. Its engines glowed faintly, a dim blue light cutting through the black. It did not fire, did not speak. It simply began disabling ships one by one. Beams of energy lashed out, stripping shields, draining power, freezing engines. Warships that once roared with life went dark, drifting powerless into space. Yet still, the intruder killed no more than it had to. It did not slaughter. It did not waste destruction. That choice carried its own message, sharper than any blade. We could destroy you. We choose not to. For the Empire's soldiers, that mercy was more terrifying than massacre. It showed absolute control. It showed that humanity could end them at will. In the palace, the emperor received the reports. His face remained carved in stone, but inside his fury boiled. His empire had ruled the stars for centuries. Worlds had fallen at the mention of his name. And now, a single intruder had brought his fleets to their knees. He rose from his throne and spoke to the gathered council. If the humans believe we will surrender, they are mistaken. We will break this ship or we will burn trying. But even as he spoke, a silence hung over the chamber. His words did not fill the air with courage as they once had. His counselors bowed, but their eyes betrayed doubt. They knew the truth. The emperor's command was no longer enough to erase fear. Out among the fleets, surrender spread. One by one, ships transmitted their submission directly to the warship, bypassing imperial command. Captains whispered apologies to their crews, convincing themselves it was survival, not treason. The black vessel accepted their silence without reply, as if recording every broken oath for judgment later. The warship finally transmitted a single phrase, carried across every channel, every frequency, from the smallest scout ship to the palace itself. Humanity does not bow. The words cut like fire, simple, final, undeniable. In that moment, the empire cracked. The throne still stood, the fleet still existed, but the spirit that had bound them was broken. An enemy they thought long forgotten had returned, and with only one ship, had proved that the empire was not unshakable. And as the human warship drifted away, vanishing once more into the endless dark, the galaxy held its breath. Because if one ship could do this, what would happen when the rest of humanity arrived? The final message, the black warship lingered at the edge of the outpost, its vast hull dark against the stars. It had faced the full force of the Empire's fleets and stood untouched. It had disabled dozens of ships with casual precision, leaving them drifting in silence, and yet still it had not unleashed its true power. That restraint weighed heavier on the Empire than any weapon. The silence was worse than destruction. It was proof that this ship and the humans behind it commanded absolute control. They could have turned the battlefield into a graveyard. Instead, they left their enemies alive, humiliated and broken. Inside the Imperial flagship, Admiral Taver sat slumped in his chair. His once proud fleet was in ruins not by fire but by fear. Crews had refused orders, ships had surrendered, and his commands now meant nothing. He was the highest officer in the sector, yet he felt smaller than he had ever felt in his life. "Admiral," his aide whispered, "what do we do?" Taver had no answer. What could he say? That they should fight again? That they should die for a throne that could not protect them? His lips parted, but no words came. His silence was the only truth. Then the human warship spoke one last time. The voice was calm, steady, almost gentle. Yet it carried across every frequency in the sector. It filled the bridges of ships, the barracks of soldiers, the halls of command, and even the throne room of the Emperor himself. "You have seen what one human ship can do. This is not invasion. This is not conquest. This is your warning." The words echoed like thunder. Every officer, every soldier, every noble felt the weight behind them. Humanity does not seek your throne. We do not seek your worlds. But if you cross our line again, if you touch our people, if you threaten our home, then you will face not one ship, but all of us. And when that day comes, your empire will not survive. The channel went silent. For a long moment, no one moved. The fleets hung motionless, drifting in a sea of fear. The Emperor himself sat frozen on his throne, his hands tightening on the armrests, his jaw clenched. Rage burned in his eyes, but beneath it lay something he could not hide. Dread. On the battlefield, the human warship's engines glowed. Slowly, with calm precision, it turned away from the fleets. No one dared to fire. No one dared to follow. They watched in silence as the black vessel drifted into hyperspace, its shape dissolving into light before vanishing completely. It was gone, but its presence remained. In the aftermath, the Empire struggled to restore order. Admirals tried to rally their men, but their words rang hollow. The memory of the warship's power was carved into every mind. Entire squadrons refused to redeploy, citing broken engines though their ships were fine. Captains requested transfers to distant worlds, far from the borders humans might cross again. In taverns and markets across the Empire, the story spread. Some claimed the ship had destroyed thousands of vessels with one strike. Others said it had been invisible to scanners, appearing and disappearing at will. None of the details were consistent, but the core of the tale never changed. A single human warship had entered the Empire's space, and the Empire had been powerless to stop it. The myth grew stronger with every retelling. Children whispered it at night. Soldiers told it with trembling voices. Even nobles in their high towers spoke of it behind closed doors. The Empire was vast, but now it carried a scar. A wound not of flesh, but of fear. In the halls of the Imperial Palace, the Emperor raged. He demanded plans for retaliation, demanded fleets be rebuilt, demanded spies track the humans' movements. But no order could erase what had happened. His words no longer carried the same weight. For the first time in generations, his people looked to the throne and wondered if their ruler was truly invincible. And somewhere, far beyond Imperial space, in the quiet systems of humanity, the warship returned. It slipped into orbit above a hidden world, its black hull gleaming under the light of a pale sun. On its bridge, its captain stood in silence, his eyes calm. He had not come for glory. He had not come for conquest. He had come only to deliver a message, and the message had been received. The Empire would not forget. It could not forget. The memory of that single ship would haunt them forever. Because now, across the stars, one truth was known. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the storm waiting in the dark. And should the Empire ever reach too far, it would learn the final truth, that no crown, no throne, and no empire could stand against a united humanity. The galaxy had changed, and it would never be the same again.